In this work is called Dates of the Tragic Shift. By the time you're seeing this, you saw the coming of Christianity, of Constantinian Christianity, the impression, and you've seen the timeline about the outcomes of justified violence, Constantinian Christianity. So now we're going to look specifically at the dates connected to that shift. So this is the yellow timeline showing, and the students are very oriented to the timelines, and they know we at times change the scale. So what we're wanting to do is look at that beginning 400 years, 300 of it quite Pacific, and then the switch. So I've laid the tiles from the box on the floor, and we have card material that the student would read and match with the time frame. And because I want this to be the teaching, I'm not going to use the cards, I'm going to use the booklet that is the control or the answers. The student, of course, would use this multiple times and then check their work with the dates booklet. So in the year 170, there is no evidence that any Christian was in the military. No evidence yet of any Christian in the military. So I'm going to find that card and put it at 170. The next lowest date is 215. The apostolic tradition teaches, this is 215, that anyone in the military must tell his superior he will not kill. If the soldier is an officer who would be expected to kill, he must tell his superior that he will not kill even if commanded. Now, what we know is that people in the military, low-level people in the military would serve as clerks, maybe police, monitoring outside bars. It was not automatically work of violence that the low-level people in the military did. That's why they say the superior, the officer might be, if you're in a position where you're expected to kill, you still have to say no to it. The next year we come to is 313. This is the Edict of Milan, which grants religious freedom for all. Christians are no longer persecuted. So in 314, the Council of Arles, the third article states that anyone who lays down his arms during peaceful time is to be excommunicated or excluded from church membership. This means that while the military knew Christians would not kill, it was expected that Christians would do other kinds of work supportive of the empire through the military. But at this point in history, Christians were not part of the fighting Roman military. So this is 314. Whoops. I picked the wrong tile here. Let me just correct that. That's obviously coming next. So this means, this Council of Arles situation has to have some explanation. And I get my explanation from the Ronald Musto Catholic Peace Tradition book. He was helpful in this, and there's other people as well. Christians could be in the military because they might have converted after they were in the military, and they might be in positions where they're not killing. But by golly, the military, including the Christians, had to be supportive of the empire. So we see what energy is there now. There's not a complete distance, there's a blurring of lines. And that will make a difference. So in 315, Christians can take their issues to bishops who can now rule or judge with binding civil authority. So we see the encroachment in the power dynamics that's going on and being adopted into the church with that. The bishops didn't say, no way are we using secular power. They went along with it. In 368, Christians started to adopt and clarify just war theories. Unfortunately, the result was that the church moved farther away from Jesus' teaching of nonviolent love and friend of enemy. This is 386. In 374, Ambrose, a politically and financially savvy pagan connected to the wealthy city of Milan, becomes a Christian in 8 days. I think he becomes a bishop within 8 days. So we have to wonder, especially after reading Alan Kreider's book, The Change in Conversion and the Origin of Christendom, did Ambrose really put on the mind of Christ in those 8 days? I think he writes that he didn't really understand Christianity at that point, but the people around him brought this about and he went along with it. By 416, everyone in the military had to be Christian. So we call this the dates of the tragic shift. So with this work, of course it's good for the student to just know what happened and understand what happened and maybe even memorize some of these dates. But it's also something that they can take to prayer. They can think about which nonviolent followers of Jesus or martyrs, because they've had that work from the early Christian timelines, which nonviolent followers of Jesus or martyrs lived in this time period. Which ones lived and stayed true during this time period? They can ask for intercession. They can think about their own lives, what they might have to say no to. It might be that they need to just say no to violent video games, even though all their friends are playing violent video games. This is hard growing, hard work. It requires a lot of prayer. It requires the adults being attentive to the dynamics that the young students are going through and being supportive and helpful in their needs. Of course, a timeline, a paper timeline could be made of this, or copying the dates out, or copying quotes connected to any of the nonviolent followers who said no. We know from the biography work that Maximilian refused to be measured for his uniform because the military was largely hereditary. You know, if your father was in, then you were in. So quotes, his trial, Maximilian's trial, was recorded, and so that can be, one summer camp we acted that out. There's follow-on work that's really just up to the creativity of the child and the adult, the student and the adult.